Hello and welcome to Espoused Entropy, a podcast from some dude. Okay, so today I want to even talk some more, or even, I guess, that word, that grammar. Yes. I would like to discuss the infighting within the Republican Party more. Um, the fighting between Mitch McConnell and Trump. And Trump just sent out a letter, and it pretty much called out McConnell with his Chinese ties, which I find kind of shocking. Just thinking about it, really, could really McConnell really be that involved with China that he's willing to screw over Americans for global concerns? Can he really do that? Can you really justify that to yourself? You would think that that even with all the rhetoric that no person is truly evil and everyone thinks that they're hero of their own story. So McConnell, on some level, thinks that what he's doing is right. But I wonder what the rationale is. Is it purely on economic, pure capitalistic grounds that he thinks that a pure open market, even if China does cheat, is better than starting wars, terror wars, and such, which lead to instability, maybe, and the higher probability of armed conflict. Is that the rationale? It's hard. I find it hard to see what's really going on there. Will Trump even run in 2024? I've heard, you would think yes, because if he won in 2024, it would validate a lot of things. But then, in the same token, if he lost in 2024, it would be probably really, he'd probably take it hard, I guess. It'd be painful. Because I know Trump thinks that the election was stolen, so he feels, really, what's the name? But you could argue that a lot of it was his own fault, since he was president before the election. He should have done more regarding election security if that was the case. But as we all know that hindsight is 2020, and we don't even know what happened in the higher echelons within the fighting of what Trump could or could not have done. So it's easy to be, Sunday morning quarterback, or no, Monday morning quarterback, and second guess. But to be in that position with the amount of fire Trump was under, it's hard not to give him a little wiggle room. But we should, in the same token, try to understand where Trump went wrong, and understand our own culpability within these events. Though it's hard with the emotional intensity that has constantly hit us every day. It is not a happy state of affairs. A lot of people seem to be happy to jettison all the establishment Republicans. I'm kind of one of them, though I think we all should be cognizant of that it might have ramifications that we're not fully understand. That maybe that might be not for the best, but I can't see it right now. But maybe that's my own blinders being affecting me. So, as always, if you have an idea or you have some insight that I do not, please feel free to comment, and I will take it into consideration. It is very strange times, as always. It's always the fighting never ends. They're talking about starting a commission within the January 6th Capitol, but I don't think that's going to be much of anything, much ado about nothing. I think it's more about trying to keep the eyes on Trump, because being in power, it's just the weakness of that position is that your political enemies can do nothing but attack you. Since you're in power, everything you do can be can be put in a negative light easier than it is when you're not. So I guess that's the political gamesmanship, is to try to keep as much of the onus on Trump and all his failings, so you don't think about the Democrats and their failings. So when 22 comes around, the Democrats won't get stopped. Though it's hard to see how they wouldn't. But if the mail-in balloting and all that seems like they keep pushing the COVID and mail-in balloting, you could see how the Democrats could retain power by that metric. But I also think it's short-sighted of the Democrats in a sense, because you might win in the short term, but you really think that's going to end well for you in the long term? cheating, that way. It seems to me that at some point you're going to get a comeuppance of some nature. I guess most of them don't care. It's like they don't care. They don't actually care about the Democratic Party. They just care about their own personal power and their own ideology, I guess. And so, I don't know. It's hard to see. It's hard to say. In some ways, I do have a streak of evil in me, as much as the next guy. But even looking into that corner of my heart, I cannot see what their end game is. It seems foolish to me, but I don't know. I don't know all the ins and outs of all these things that are going on. I can only speak from an outsider looking in, who has spent some time thinking about and tried to come to a probability that is higher than most. That's all I can say. 22 should be very telling to how things are going down. I think Mitch McConnell, his political career is pretty much over, but he is pretty rich, and him being on the anti-Trump side will get him a pass from certain things that he's had to deal with. Because being in the crosshairs of the let's say left is not a cakewalk. They play dirty, really dirty. There is definitely something behind there that is beyond understanding. That is, yikes. The only good thing for me is being smaller, being nothing. I am a blip, so I can fire my rounds without anyone taking much notice. But it does fear me. I do have some fear that if I actually ever got popular, that they would come after me. I mean, especially it's an intense time. McConnell and the more rhino conservatives, it was based that, it's said that it's been based that they were fighting mainly over ideology, and that the pure capitalist versus the more kind of protectionist that Trump is. But Trump really wasn't that protectionist. He just didn't like the other side cheating, which, I've always been more free market, but that's a good argument, Yeah, we can have free markets, but if they're not playing by the rules, we shouldn't just let them get away with it, which seems purely logical to me. I don't see a fault in that. It's like, yeah, you got me. That's a good argument. We should make China play by the rules. But because they're such a large manufacturing base, they get away with things. And not to mention, kind of having the Muslims in concentration camps and no one says boo about it, which is hilarious that they can get away with that. It just shows you so much of today is clown world. They could literally have concentration camps trying to breed them out. Just forced organ donations, and nobody even talks about it. How the hell did that happen? In America, you say one thing, you get offended. They're freaking taking people's organs from political prisoners. No one even talks about it. Ugh. How much coal is put in the atmosphere from China? I mean, environmentalists never talk about China. It's amazing. It's like you never hear the environmentalists going off on China. The hypocrisy and the compartmentalization of the leftists is sometimes astounding. It's beyond measure, beyond words, beyond anything I could ever express to you. It is a painful process of looking at them and not getting violent urges. Suppressing those violent urges is the point. I know I should, but sometimes, oh my lord, you just want to take a deep breath and let it all out, because, oh man, sometimes. Okay, so back onto the fighting within the Republican Party and the future of the Republican Party. I really wanted a Patriot Party, honestly. I really wanted that. I thought it would have been better to start from scratch, but maybe that would be the wrong call, because it would take a while for the actual party to get any strength, and so the Democrats would have carte blanche to do even more horrific things to the country, and actually probably would end in a civil war definitively. That as the Republicans and the Patriot Party would fight for the future of the party, the Democrats would have more and more draconian measures, and which would inevitably lead to some spark that would have armed conflict follow shortly. And I guess that's the worst thing about all this is because as the United States has all these problems and might be losing more and more of their power, especially with the manufacturing going overseas and the debt to China, we are what keeps the world stable. Our hegemonic power is what keeps peace. That's why we haven't had a big war. Well, I guess you could also make an argument the nukes have stopped any major armed conflict, but it's only a matter of time where one country tests that notion that someone will use nukes because no one wants to actually use them. So I think once America loses its power, even though our military is the strongest, but you can see there's a rot inside our military that is making it weaker and weaker. And at some point, it's going to have an effect. At some point, some country's going to see that weakness and decide to test the giant to see if he still got it. And if he comes up short, there will be many armed conflicts. I mean, India and China are almost at war constantly. I wonder how close we are. If it wasn't for the deep economic ties to the U.S. having a lot of influence over them not going to war, what would happen then? What happens if the U.S. becomes so weak that China and India no longer care what the U.S. says about it? And then they have deaths all the time. They have sparks all the time. It's only the Indians hate the Chinese. They hate Muslims. You want to know a country that hates Muslims more than us or anybody? It's the Indians. they hate the Muslims. That Pakistan and Indian separation after the British left was, man, that leaves some scars. You should really watch a documentary on when the Britain left India. It is the most sobering thing. I mean, the Indians they were all about we want freedom, and this and that, and the cost that was paid, man, the death, destruction, hatred, anger, those scars have not left in how many years it's been now? What was it 50, 60 years? I don't remember exactly when it happened, but I was watching the travesty and the horrific things that happened in India to the and when the Pakistanis, which, if you don't know, long and short of it is that the Indians were the kind of the majority type of thing. They were all like Hindu, and then the Pakistanis were all Muslim, and so that divide between the religions, sects, when they carried their own country, there was this lawless, horrific things happening. Killings, rape, torture, all the worst things of human nature just set out for the world to see. But because it was done from India and Pakistan, no one really cared. It was didn't get much attention from the world stage. And it's not like back then, it wasn't like now where we have 24 information. But considering how our information now is so have gatekeepers so much that people don't even talk about China and what things they're doing and all the horrific things going on there, we probably won't hear about it happen today. It's a sad state of affairs. I know history is written by the victors, but still, man, it's heavy. It's heavy, dude. I don't know what else to say about it. And then we have our own infighting with the Democrats, Republicans. I mean, sometimes I seriously think that we should just create two countries. Wow, yeah. I get India and Pakistan would be a good indication of what happened if we did such a thing. Because they're almost at war continually, too. Wow, that's heavy. It's heavy, dude. There's something wrong with the Earth's gravity. Okay, sorry. I apologize for my musings here. But the future is very strange. Well, will the Democrats be able to push the COVID to 2022 and allow themselves a way to win the House, keep the House, and keep the Senate? Will the Republicans somehow be able to come together after all this division and then retake the House, retake the Senate? Which would, if they did, because the Democrats played so hard with Trump, man, it's going to be crazy. There's going to be a lot of pushing for a lot of things. But see, I know it seems like wishful thinking that the Republicans win back the House and the Senate. Will the media, how much push will the media continue to have? Will they completely die out by then in 2 years' time? Will they have like so little impact on the election that they won't even matter anymore? That their propaganda, won't even matter? Will the internet become so, the old big tech giants be so censor oriented and left wing pushing communist propaganda stuff that they actually be able to pull off the win? Will be able to stop any of this? I don't know. I don't know what to say about it, really. All I can talk is just talk and give people ideas. I tried my hand at things, but nobody wants to follow me, which I don't blame them. But I just don't see anybody else doing it. Somebody else do it. I'll follow. I'll be a follower. I have no problem being a follower. I don't want the responsibility of leading anything. But the problem is no one seems to be doing it. I mean, Trump's pretty much going to go MIA until 2024, or maybe he might get involved in the 22 primaries, but he's not going to lead the party. I mean, you got DeSantis. I tell you, I voted for him, and I've never been more happy of a vote I have ever cast, because being here in Florida, it is, I've had some problems. When I went to DMV, I tried not to wear a mask, and I had a fight with a security officer. I was like, the government order. He's like, you don't know. I didn't bother checking, but next time, if I ever go back, I'm going to look it up before I go, so I have some ammunition to fight with. But because our county is a bunch of old, cowardly people. All they have to say is COVID, and people become really cowardly. I wore a mask the first week. I did. They said we didn't know what happened, what was going on. So I was like, okay, it's better safe than sorry. Especially I'm in Florida. There's a lot of old people. Take some responsibility. Okay, no problem. Then I saw the death rates, and I saw it was all bullshit. So then I refused to wear a mask because it's political theater, so they can do the mail-in balloting, so they can get Trump out, which they succeeded, and it was so obvious that it was so obvious that was the point, but yet it didn't matter. That's I think the most infuriating thing about everything that happened is because it was so obvious, and it was how people didn't see it. Really, it really hurt your outlook on people, about the future of the country. It was like, how could you not understand what they're doing? Look at the death rates, look at the flu death rates. It's not that hard. It's not you have to be Einstein and come up with some revolutionary new way to look at the world. It's pretty obvious, and a lot of people did see it. But the irony is that the people that could see it, well, maybe they did. Maybe it's the whole that agreed upon lie thing. But I guess even though it is the agreed upon lie thing, it's hard to believe that it's come to that people would do that. That the news and the media would just get so lockstep behind a lie and push it for political purposes. I mean, they lied about Trump, but lie about something like this, it's so much more. It's so much more painful. I mean, they lied about Trump, but usually lies by omission. Usually, lies by misdirection on context. But just to outright lie about something like this, maybe it's the same thing, but to me it feels worse. I don't know how to explain it. How else to put it in real words? I don't know. Okay, I think I've talked long enough. If you've actually hung on to this point, I thank you kindly. Feel free to comment and enlighten me in where I'm being moronic. Enlighten me in my own blinders. Because God knows I could use it right about now. Trying to make sense of this giant pile of garbage. Thank you. Disposed Entropy out.